Hi everyone, and thanks so much for joining us today. We're here with Tim Corden from Radisson Hotels. He's the Senior Area Vice President for the Middle East and Africa, and he's in South Africa for 2 days this week as the hotel chain has just opened a new Radisson at ORTIA. Thanks so much for squeezing us into your schedule this week.
It's a pleasure to be back in South Africa after far too long, really. 2020 has been a bit exceptional for travel.
It really has. So Tim, you've just opened a new hotel at ORTIA. It's the Radisson Hotel and Convention Centre. And I understand this is the 4th Radisson Hotel in South Africa. Maybe you could tell our readers a little bit about the different offerings in the country and how you differentiate between your Radisson Hotel brands.
Sure. So yeah, the Radisson Hotel ORT, we're delighted to add it to the portfolio. A great convention centre there, and whilst it's close to the airport, it doesn't necessarily rely on the airport for its business. And that's our 12th hotel in South Africa. We have 6 here in Cape Town. That's the 4th one in Johannesburg, or the wider Johannesburg area, and we have one in Port Elizabeth and also Polokwane. And they're spread over 3 brands that we operate in South Africa. In the upper mid-scale, as we call it, we have the Park Inn by Radisson brand, very successful, a lot of fun, and quite a relaxed brand. We also have Radisson Red, which is an upscale lifestyle brand. Radisson Red here in Cape Town has been a particular success, and we've got a Radisson Red coming in Rosebank, Johannesburg in 2021, which we're very excited about. Then we also have Radisson, the brand ORT, and our upper upscale brand Radisson Blue, which is probably the most ubiquitous one, the one people are most familiar with, because we have a number of those in both Johannesburg and in Cape Town.
Okay, great. That's super. And I mean, you've mentioned COVID and 2020. What has the situation done with rates across hotel chains around the world, and what do you foresee happening next year?
COVID-19 has been nothing short of a catastrophe for our business, of course. We've seen revenues really collapse over the last sort of 2 quarters as a sector. So not just Radisson Hotel Group, all hotel and travel companies have been really struggling. And pricing is something we base on demand. We have dynamic pricing, a bit like an airline seat or a car rental company would. And we increase our prices when demand goes up. And when demand falls like this, of course, we've had to decrease our prices to a certain extent. But there's a point where you get so low and there's no point going any further, because we know that discounting doesn't necessarily increase demand. People don't decide to travel just because hotels have reduced their prices. So we try and carefully balance the right price against the demand profile and characteristics we see in an individual city at any one time. But COVID has clearly had a very significant impact. Having said that, the last 12 weeks, we've seen week-on-week growth every single week in pretty much every segment of the market that we operate in. So we're kind of encouraged that that's the fragile start of a gentle recovery. And in South Africa, particularly, November and December, looking better again. So we're hopeful that things continue in that direction, and by this time next year, we hope to be in a very different place.
That's such fantastic news. As a hotelier, what would you say the outlook for hotels in sub-Saharan Africa is?
It still remains, the long-term outlook, in my view, still remains positive. I'm not concerned about the industry. I don't think it's facing an existential crisis. I think people will still want to travel. We know, because through the search history we look at online, that there's a lot of interest in traveling. A lot of people want to come to Africa, and sub-Saharan Africa is, generally speaking, underrepresented in the hotel world. So there are fewer hotels per capita in most sub-Saharan African cities than there are in more developed economies. So as these economies develop, we think there's massive opportunity for more hotels. But right now, today, that might not be the case, but of course a hotel investment is something you do for 10 or probably 20 years or even more. And on that timeline, COVID-19 becomes an awful year in 2020, but a memory by 2023, 2024, 2025, which if you decide to build a hotel today, it's probably not going to be opening until 2023. So the timescales certainly mitigate the risks significantly. So I think the future remains quite bright for our industry and our sector on the back of some unprecedented growth over the last 20 years. So I think people will want to travel, and we're social animals. We need to connect with each other. So I'm sure that's going to be something we look forward to seeing return back to some kind of normal in the next 18 months or so.
Okay, well, that's very positive, which is so lovely after a very difficult year. Thank you for joining us again, and safe trip home.
You're very welcome. Thanks very much.